The sound of a key turning in the front door made my blood freeze. It was 10:43 p.m. I was in an oversized t-shirt, no bra, barefoot, holding a half-empty glass of wine and humming some stupid old song to the dog as we shared a plate of pasta on the kitchen floor. And someone was unlocking the door. For a full second, I just stood there motionless, breath held as if stillness could make me invisible. Then the door opened. The silhouette that stepped inside wasn't a stranger, but it might as well have been. "Hi," he said. Calm, flat, expression unreadable. "You weren't expecting me, were you?" I blinked hard. "Mr. Archer?" He nodded, stepping into the light. And there he was, Tom, my best friend's father. Salt and pepper hair, tall, still wearing the same serious expression I remembered from high school, only now it was paired with a dark coat, a travel bag, and eyes that hadn't softened with time. "You're back early," I said, setting the glass on the counter with a hard clink. "I changed my flight. I didn't know anyone would be here yet. But I rubbed my arm, suddenly too aware of my bare legs and messy hair. "I thought you'd be gone until Saturday." "I thought so too," he replied. "The client canceled." We both stood there, unmoving. Only the dog, sweet, stupid Max, wagged his tail between us like this was normal. It wasn't. Before we continue, I'd love if you subscribed and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I really enjoy reading them. Your likes and support help me share more stories like this. He set his bag down in the hallway without asking me to move. I didn't. I wanted to say something, offer to leave, ask if I should pack up, apologize for the pasta, but I couldn't find a single word that didn't sound ridiculous. So instead, I started cleaning. Not because the house was messy, but because it gave me something to do with my hands. "I can head back to the city tonight," I mumbled, wiping an already clean counter. "It's not that far." "No," he said immediately. "It's late. Just stay." I paused. "You sure?" He nodded, already halfway up the stairs. "I'll take the guest room," he added without turning around. "You're fine." The sound of his door closing was louder than it should have been. I lay in the big guest bed with unfamiliar sheets and tried to pretend I wasn't spiraling. It was just a house. Just a man. Just a few more nights. So why did I feel like the air had changed completely the second he walked in? There was nothing inappropriate about what happened. He didn't touch me. He didn't look at me like that. But something had shifted. It was in the silence. In the way he stood so still in the doorway, watching me with that impossible-to-read face. In the way my stomach twisted when I realized how much skin I was showing, even though I wasn't trying to show anything. I hadn't seen him in years. Not since we crossed paths at Ellie's graduation. He barely said a word then, and yet now he was 20 feet away, upstairs, probably already asleep. And I was wide awake, thinking about how quiet he was. And how quiet I'd suddenly become, too. Max padded into the room sometime around 1 a.m. and curled up beside the bed without being asked. I reached down and stroked his fur. "You could have warned me," I whispered. He sighed, the kind of exhale dogs do when they're settled and smug, and drifted off. I wasn't so lucky. I woke to the smell of coffee. It took me a full minute to remember where I was and who else was in the house. I padded into the kitchen, braless again, before I remembered. He was standing at the stove, pouring 2 mugs. He turned at the sound of my feet. And for the first time, we really looked at each other. "Good morning," he said, his voice quiet but not unkind. "Morning," I said back, tugging my sleeves over my hands. "I made too much," he said, nodding at the mugs. He handed one to me without asking how I took it. And I accepted it without asking what he meant by too much. Because in that moment, it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a rhythm we didn't realize we knew. The mug he handed me that morning was too hot. I held it anyway. Because it gave me something to focus on that wasn't him standing across from me in a soft gray t-shirt and joggers, hair a little messy, jaw still shadowed with sleep. It was casual. Too casual. Like we hadn't shared the same roof all night. barely exchanging a sentence, while something invisible curled tighter around us with every hour. He leaned against the counter, sipping his own coffee like none of this was strange. Like I wasn't still barefoot and braless in someone else's house, heart pounding for reasons I didn't understand. "Did Max wake you up?" he asked, breaking the silence. I shook my head. "No, I just didn't sleep much." He nodded like he understood exactly what I meant. "I'll be working most of the day. You've got the house." "Oh, sure," I said quickly. "I'll keep out of the way." "You don't have to." That made me glance up. His voice was different when he said it. Not soft, not stern. Just honest. I tried to busy myself, walked Max, watered the plants, half-heartedly started a book I'd brought and immediately abandoned. But every room I passed, I thought about where he was in it last night. The arm of the couch where his hand brushed the dog. The coffee mug still drying in the rack. The quiet sounds from his office upstairs. It was like the house had soaked him into the walls, and now that I knew what his presence felt like, I couldn't not feel it. Around 2 p.m., I found myself hovering outside his office, not on purpose, just standing there, listening. I didn't knock, didn't speak. I just waited. And then, as if he'd felt it, his voice came through the door. "You can come in, you know." The room was bright wood floors, tall bookshelves, a big desk facing the window, neat but not cold. He didn't look up when I walked in, just gestured toward the armchair near the corner. "You don't have to pretend to read those," he said, nodding at the books. "They're mostly for show." I smiled. "So you're not secretly a war history buff?" He smirked. "No, that was my ex-wife's attempt at making me look cultured." My smile faltered. I didn't know he'd been married. He noticed the pause. "Divorced 8 years now." "Sorry." "Don't be. You weren't the one who left." I didn't know what to say to that. So I sat. And for a while, we just existed in the same room. No pressure. No expectation. Just quiet. The kind of quiet you only get with someone who knows how to leave space without making it feel like absence. At some point, he looked up from his laptop and said, "Do you like it here? In the house? In the quiet?" I hesitated. "No one's ever asked me that," I said. "Most people assume I hate being alone." "And do you?" I looked at him and said the truth. "Not until I'm around someone who makes me feel seen. Then I realize how lonely I've been." He didn't respond right away. Then he stood, walked to the bookshelf, picked up something, not a book, a framed photo. He held it out to me. It was old, faded. A little girl with pigtails and missing front teeth, holding a beagle puppy and laughing like the world was still good. That was my daughter. Was? She lives with her mom now. We talk sometimes. I handed the photo back gently. "She looks like she used to live in this house." He nodded, looking down at it. "She did, but after a while the house stopped feeling like hers, and then like mine." I swallowed hard. "It feels lived in now." He looked up. "Because of you?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We didn't eat dinner together. But we did end up in the same room again, him with a glass of whiskey, me with tea and a blanket over my knees. The dog flopped between us on the couch, snoring loud enough to break the tension. "He really likes you," Tom said. "I'm easy to like. I feed him." He looked at me then, and something about his gaze made my throat dry. "Is that all it takes?" My heart skipped. "No," I said quietly. "Not for me." The silence stretched long between us. I didn't look away, and neither did he. It started with thunder, a deep, rolling kind that made the windows shiver. I was already in bed when it began, blanket pulled up to my chest, lights off, heart uneasy. I wasn't afraid of storms, but something about the way the house creaked that night made the walls feel too thin, and I hated that I was listening for his footsteps. Worse, I hated that I wanted to. I jumped when it came. Soft. Twice. I pulled the blanket tighter around me before I answered. Yeah? His voice came through the door, low but careful. Power just went out. I've got candles. I opened the door, and there he was holding a small glass candle like we were in some old novel. The flame flickered across his face, softening everything about him. His eyes flicked to the blanket still wrapped around me. You okay? I nodded. Just jumpy. He nodded too. Yeah, me too. Another long second passed before he asked, Can I come in for a minute? I hesitated, then stepped aside. He set the candle on the nightstand and sat down on the edge of the bed not beside me, just close enough that I could feel the tension radiating off his shoulders. This house always feels louder in the rain, he said. I noticed. He looked around the room, his own guest room, but now filled with my books, my shampoo, my phone charger draped over the lamp. You've made it look lived in. I shrugged. Guess I spread fast. It's not a complaint. He ran a hand through his hair. The candlelight caught on the silver in it. It's been a long time since I shared space with someone. Too long? I asked. He looked at me then, really looked. Long enough that I forgot how nice it is when someone fills the silence. That sentence landed deep in my chest. I didn't know how to respond, so I didn't. I just watched the flame between us sway. You want me to stay? He asked softly. It took me a second to realize he didn't mean for the night. Do you want me to stay? I said. He exhaled slowly. You're the first person who's made this house feel less like a memory. I let that settle. Then said, Then don't make me feel like I'm temporary. I shifted to sit beside him, careful, still wrapped in the blanket. He didn't move away. We sat like that for a while, two people, side by side, not touching, not speaking, but feeling everything. And then his hand moved. Not quickly. Not deliberately. Just enough that the back of his fingers brushed mine. The contact was featherlight, but my entire body reacted. Sorry, he said, voice barely audible. Don't be. I whispered. This isn't right, he murmured. Then why does it feel more honest than anything else? He turned to me. There was so much in his eyes, caution, pain, longing, fear. Because I haven't touched someone who sees me in a long, long time. I swallowed hard. And I've never been touched by someone who wanted to know who I was first. We were too close now. The kind of close that makes you forget what room you're in, what rules existed 10 minutes ago. His hand came to rest on my blanket-covered knee, a soft weight, not suggestive, just present. My heart was pounding so loud I was afraid he'd hear it. He leaned in, not all the way. Just far enough that I felt his breath on my cheek. Tell me to stop, he said. I didn't. But I didn't move either. That was all it took. He closed his eyes, exhaled, pulled back. He stood. Good night, he said, more broken than before. And then he left the candle burning. As if to say, I wanted to stay. The candle was still burning when I woke up. The room was cold, too quiet, and the weight in my chest hadn't left with him. I lay there staring at the ceiling for a long time, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it all the way his fingers brushed mine, the way his voice trembled when he said goodnight, the way his eyes searched mine like he was standing on a cliff. But I hadn't imagined it. And he had left. That part was real. I found him by the sink. He was rinsing dishes with the kind of intensity people use when they don't want to feel anything else. He didn't look up when I entered. Morning, I said. Morning, he replied, quiet, controlled, distant. Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't almost kissed him in the dark. Like he hadn't wanted to. I poured myself coffee. The silence between us was unbearable, not because it was empty, but because it was loaded. You left the candle, I said, just to say something. I didn't want you to wake up in the dark. You always that considerate? He looked at me then. Finally. No, he said softly. Not always. There it was a crack. And I couldn't help myself. So was last night a mistake? He hesitated, then turned off the tap. No, but it was dangerous. I swallowed. To who? He didn't answer. So I pushed. You think I don't know what I'm doing? I think you're too young to understand how complicated I am. I stepped forward. That's not fair. No, he said, voice hardening. What's not fair is how easy it would be to want you. I flinched. He saw it, and softened again. You deserve someone who isn't. He stopped, searching for the word, half alive. You're not, I whispered. Lena, don't say my name like that unless you mean it. That stopped him. He moved to the table and sat down, elbows on knees, head in his hands. I stood near the counter, arms crossed like I was holding something in, maybe myself. You were supposed to be here for the dog, he said. You were supposed to be gone all week. We both laughed quietly, bitterly. Then he looked at me again, this time with less fear. You feel like a memory I haven't made yet. I didn't know what to say, so I told him the truth. I've never had someone look at me like I'm not in the way. He blinked. You're not in the way. Then stop making me feel like I am. He stood suddenly, too fast. This isn't what I do. I don't blur lines. I don't start things I can't finish. And I don't fall for men who make me feel unsafe. But here we are. That shut him up. We stared at each other. There was no wall anymore. No dog, no hallway, no couch. Just us, raw and uncovered. He sat back down. After my wife left, I didn't let anyone in. Not friends, not family, not even my daughter. Not really. And now? He looked at me, something unreadable in his eyes. Now I can't walk through this house without thinking about the sound of your voice. I stepped closer. He didn't move. And that scares you? More than anything. Why? Because I don't know how to keep you and not hurt you. I reached across the table, touched his hand. He let me. Then don't keep me. Just let me be here. He didn't kiss me. Not yet. But when I sat down beside him and our shoulders touched, he didn't pull away. He just sat there, quiet, breathing, letting me exist beside him like I belonged there. And I did. I woke up with my head on his shoulder. It was still early gray light leaking through the curtains, the house wrapped in that soft silence that only exists before the world remembers it has to move. His arm was around me, not tightly, just there. Like it had ended up that way in sleep, and neither of us had the heart to fix it. I didn't move. Didn't want to break the spell. And for the first time in what felt like years, I didn't wake up feeling alone. Eventually, he stirred. His chest rose beneath my cheek, a breath slow, careful, measured. I felt him realize I was still there. Still close. Still warm. You're awake, he said, voice low, a little raspy. So are you. Neither of us moved. We didn't mean to fall asleep like this, he murmured. No. Silence. Then, but I'm glad we did. That stopped me. Because I was too. More than I could admit out loud. I sat up slowly. He followed. And for a moment, we just sat on the edge of the couch, shoulders touching, staring at the window like we were waiting for the day to decide how real last night had been. You said something yesterday, I said, that you didn't want to hurt me. He nodded slowly, didn't look at me. But you still let me fall asleep on you. He looked over then. Because I couldn't imagine moving away from you. That made my throat tighten. Then stop pretending you don't want this. He exhaled, looked down at his hands, rubbed his palm like something was burning under the skin. It's not about what I want. Then what is it about? What happens after? That landed hard. You think I'm temporary, I said, almost too quietly. No, he said. I think you're the first thing that feels permanent. And that terrifies me. I wasn't just hurt when she left, he said. I was relieved. I blinked. Relieved? relieved I wouldn't have to pretend anymore, that I wasn't still in love with someone who disappeared years before she packed her things. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. I got used to being half here, used to the silence, used to the dog being the only thing that waited for me to come home. His voice cracked. And then you showed up. He turned to me. And suddenly the silence wasn't comfortable anymore. It was loud, because it wasn't yours. I've never had someone choose me, I said. Not really. Not when it meant anything. He looked at me. They always want someone younger, easier, less emotional, or they just don't want to stay. And I let them go before they get the chance. And now I'm sitting in a house I was supposed to leave days ago, in a shirt that isn't mine, talking to a man who makes me feel like I'm worth knowing. My eyes burned, but I didn't cry. Not yet. So yeah, I said, now I'm terrified too. He reached for me slowly, carefully, like he was still giving me a chance to stop him. I didn't. His hand cupped my face, thumb resting just beneath my eye. I don't know how to do this, he whispered. Me neither. But I want to try. Then start here. And then he kissed me. The kiss wasn't perfect. It didn't rush. It settled, like something already decided, just now allowed to happen. Like all the nights we didn't speak, the truth were finally folding into something whole. When we pulled back, neither of us spoke. But everything had already been said. He pressed his forehead to mine. If this ruins me, he said, it will have been worth it. I whispered back, it won't ruin you. I think I'm the one who came to put you back together. He made pancakes the next morning. Real ones. From scratch. No mix. He cracked the eggs like he was concentrating too hard, like if he looked at me for too long, we'd lose the fragile rhythm we'd built overnight. I didn't say much. I just sat at the counter, watching him move around his own kitchen like he'd never had someone to cook for before. And maybe he hadn't. Maybe that was the point. There was no awkwardness. Not really. Just a kind of fragile quiet, like the house itself was waiting to see what we'd do next. He slid a plate in front of me. No syrup, just butter. I didn't know what you like, he said. This is perfect. He didn't sit down. He leaned against the sink, arms crossed, pretending not to watch me take the first bite. I swallowed, slowly. Then I said it. I don't want to go. His jaw tensed. Then don't. I looked up. That easy? No, he said. But I'm tired of making the hard thing. The only thing that feels safe. My phone buzzed around noon. It was Ellie, my best friend, his daughter. I hadn't told her I was still here. I hadn't told her anything. He noticed the way my body froze. You should talk to her, he said gently. What am I supposed to say? Hey, I'm still at your dad's place, and we're sort of not ignoring this anymore? He half smiled, not mocking, just sad. You don't owe anyone an explanation. But she's your daughter. She's not blind, he said quietly. She knows I've been alone for a long time. I held the phone like it might burn me. And if she hates me? Then I'll remind her that I raised her to recognize real connection when it walks in the door. We didn't kiss again. We didn't lie in bed or pour wine or light candles. We did the laundry. We walked the dog. We argued over whether to keep an ugly lamp he'd had for too long. And in every moment, I felt myself settling into something I didn't realize I'd been missing. Not passion, not adrenaline. Permanence. That night, I found him in the backyard, sitting on the old wooden steps in a hoodie that looked 10 years too worn. I sat beside him. The air was cool. We didn't talk for a while. Just listened to the wind move through the trees. And then he said, I used to think love had to be loud, obvious, sweeping. And now? He looked at me. Eyes clear, steady. Now I think it's someone you want to come home to even if they never left. I swallowed hard. I never packed my bag again. I noticed. He reached for my hand. Are you scared? Yes, I whispered, but it's the good kind. Then stay. I already am. We never called it anything. There was no Facebook status, no grand announcement. Just mornings with shared coffee, dogs at our feet, and a home that finally stopped echoing. He never tried to change me, and I never asked him to fix what was already healing. We were quiet, and we were real. And for once in my life, that was enough.